What's up? We're at Black Hat USA doing my first ever person on the street interview here with my good friend Sherrod DeGrippo.
Hello everyone, it's me.
Where do you work?
I work at a little software company based out of Seattle, Washington called Microsoft.
So now you see why I'm doing this here, and I'm doing it live, because this is a super awesome opportunity to get to ask you some questions specifically about threat intelligence.
It's very important.
I'd say you know a little bit about threat intel, right?
I know a little bit about threat intelligence. I've been doing it for about 21 years. And essentially, threat intelligence is watching what threat actors do.
Watching what they do. Okay, so the one that I did want to spend some time talking about today, and we can go in any direction you want, but we've been talking a lot with you guys about North Korea.
That's right.
So I've been talking a lot on my channel about how North Koreans have basically broken the hiring process right now.
Yes.
I've seen it on both sides. I've seen North Koreans obviously getting hired into software jobs where they are performing espionage and ransomware attacks and all this kind of stuff based on getting hired. And I've seen them trying to post fake job listings.
Yes.
And then infecting the people that they are interviewing for those jobs, especially in like Web3 and crypto, with malware from like fake NPM packages and PyPy and stuff like this. So I know you guys know a ton about this. I would love, like, is this like marketing hype that I'm reading about?
Oh no, this is for real.
This is really happening.
So there are a couple of threat actors out of North Korea, Jade Sleet, Citrine Sleet, who, one, absolutely are focused on getting those jobs. And something I think people don't really know, one of the big parts of the story for me is that they actually do the jobs. They don't get the job and then just steal information. They do the work, perhaps at a mediocre level, but they write the code, they do the network administration, they do the systems administration and architecture and engineering, and they use the salary that they get from that work to go back to finance the regime in North Korea. So that money is then sent back to their government to do further espionage attacks or, as you mentioned, ransomware.
So I know you can't tell me like exactly what you're seeing, like they're doing and how you're catching them when you see it, but what can you tell me? Like what behaviors do they exhibit like that you are seeing that you can tell me about?
Sure. So at Microsoft, we get about 84 trillion signals a day, and those come in from a variety of different sources, including, you might imagine, all of our security products. And we can see when threat actors attempt to steal information or when they match something like a detection signature. In the case of the North Korea-based IT workers, we see things like commonalities in the resumes that they submit. We look at things like the information that they give to those hiring managers. And eventually, we also notice that they're doing things like uploading fake IDs in order to get those jobs.
So the question that I get asked a lot when I talk about this topic is, are we seeing a lot of AI come into their behavior when they're generating these identities? Or I hear that they get hired at multiple jobs, and you're saying they're performing their jobs. Are they using some sort of like AI tech stack to like actually like be productive or create these identities, or what? Like what's going on with AI in the North Korean land?
From what we can tell, they are using AI to do things like generate documents, like the IDs, the resumes, and various other like work permits and certificates like that. In terms of using AI to actually do the work that they're assigned, we're not sure about that part, but any smart person is using AI to do coding these days, vibe or not, and I think that that probably does come into it.
Or planning their travel, like we found from you recently.
Plan all your vacations with AI. It will be fun.
Cool. So what can anyone watching this that's like worried about the North Korean threat actors? I get a lot of questions from recruiters like, what do I do to do, like they have no idea what to do to like even combat this at all without, you know, I don't know, like racial profiling is like a serious concern. You can't be like, oh, this person looks like they might be Korean, like let's run them through some different process. What can we tell people to do to help protect themselves?
I think you really do have to get to know your candidates, and as a hiring manager, you have to be quite vigilant in making sure that the people that are applying for these jobs are the people that should get them and will do them. But it's tough, you know, that's something where having detection for data exfiltration or any kind of user behavioral analytics within your system would also make sense. But it's a difficult problem because it involves the human element as well as a technical piece of it. But I think keeping really vigilant if you're in recruiting, HR, as a hiring manager, you want to know who you're bringing on your team because there's always going to be a sensitive data component there.
And obviously, Microsoft Threat Intel, you guys have a great blog. You share a lot of great information. What specifically in this area are you guys sharing that people can like tap into to keep an eye on?
Sure. So we've put out a couple of blogs about the North Korean IT worker situation. They include hunting guides. They include things like IOCs and just general guidance on how you can mitigate some of these potential threats from a technical perspective.
That's awesome. I've done some content about a tool that you guys put out called KC7. Are there modules in there that kind of help practice hunting these kinds of threats?
Yeah, KC7 is really cool. It's a platform that allows you to essentially do gamified threat intelligence work. And it's really fun. You can chase down the threat actors, and you're given things like forensics and logs and failed detections and things like that you can put in. You can run queries on them on KQL or Custo query language, and you can get all the information to do an investigation on real threat actor style games. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's super cool. I've been telling everyone that'll listen about it because we've seen a lot of hacking games that can teach you how to do the offensive side of things, but not a lot that can actually teach you like, hey, this is how to do a ransomware investigation, or this is how to do some sort of like advanced persistent threat hunt type thing going on. So I think it's really cool.
It's really cool because you can essentially take your time to be a detective. You can take your time to investigate, feel what it feels like to be a threat intelligence analyst, and they get increasingly harder and harder. So there are some of the top modules there that people haven't been able to break yet.
That's super cool. So going back to North Korea real quick. So I've seen a lot of things in the news about law enforcement having successes in taking down some of the laptop farms that people are using in the States. So not necessarily signal about North Korea, coming in and logging into your network, but the logins actually look like they're coming from the States. Can you tell me more about these laptop farms?
That's correct. So essentially the threat actor has tricked U.S. persons into accepting shipments like laptops and just setting them up in their homes or their small offices. Then the threat actor remote connects into those laptops, does the work from that remote connectivity, so it appears that it's coming from places like Arizona and Ohio. That's a pretty smart trick, and I want all of your listeners and you to know it is a crime to accept those and facilitate this threat activity from the North Korean regime. So be very careful if something's too good to be true.
I was looking at this, it looks like some of them are tricked, and then some of them actually, think that they're getting hired for some sort of other legitimate job here in the States. And it's hard for me to believe that they don't know what's going on at some point when they got 29 laptops in their living room and, they're facilitating remote connections to them.
Even the most innocuous pieces of it are quite sketchy. And you should be suspicious if someone says, can I send you these, 30 laptops that you'll connect in your living room and I'll pay you a couple $1,000s. I would say no to that. That's very sketchy.
Okay, cool. I've got some notes to take from that, and I've got some laptops to unplug really quick.
Oh no, you need to run home and turn those laptops off.
School's expensive. What else can you guys tell me about this whole operation and what Microsoft's seeing?
In terms of North Korea threat actor, really we're looking at situations where the North Korean regime knows that having someone on the inside of an organization is the best way to get data from it. And there is that bonus, like I said, they do the work, they make the salary, and they send that money back.
This reminds me a lot of, do you remember the XC utils bug? This reminds me a lot of that, where there was this trust built up of actually being helpful. It
was a long game.
Yeah. This feels very similar, right? It's like, they're doing the job. They are an employee. And then it turns out, by the way, they're exfiltrating data and, ransoming people and stuff like that.
XC libutils is really interesting. For those of you who are open source or SSH nerds, if there's SSH nerds out in the crowd, this was an incident where a maintainer of an open source project was getting really overwhelmed. They had some family issues. And so one of the other contributors to the project said, hey, you know what, I'll take over. And in doing so, over several years of building trust, this particular person took over one of the libraries that goes into SSH, which is a very important encryption connection capability within Linux, and put vulnerable code on purpose and had vulnerable access to SSH across millions of computers until it was discovered. So I do agree, it's very similar. It's taking a really innocuous point of view and coming across as helpful, and then getting in somewhere and using it for malicious purposes.
All right, and really quick, the flip side of this, right? How I'm seeing, we've talked a lot about the IT worker scheme and getting infiltrating companies, but how about on the developers getting attack side? Is the scale of that like much smaller? Are you guys seeing intel on that as well?
I think software developers need to really understand that they are part of the software supply chain, and that is attack surface that's very, very attractive to threat actors. Essentially, think about it. If you can compromise an upstream tech provider, that gives you access to all of that provider's customers. You don't need to go after each of those individual organizations if you can get in at the top of their tech stack, whether that's software within, vulnerabilities within the code, or in some kind of VAR or platform or some kind of ISP.
That's super cool. All right, in terms of protection, I know you said like that you got to really understand your candidates and get to know your candidates. Every time I post a video on this topic, everyone's like, "Oh, easy solve. Fly your candidates in person for."
Oh, I love that.
An interview.
Sure.
Turns out,
Solved it.
Turns out the Koreans aren't going to fly over here. Like in terms of besides like getting to know people, is there any techniques that you're seeing people deploy? Maybe more technological things instead of training your people to you got to really understand your recruiting pipeline or anything like that. Is there any tech that maybe we could talk about that's interesting?
I think that data exfiltration detection is something that's really important.
Yeah.
And I know that we typically refer to that as DLP, which is not the most exciting of technologies. However, in this particular case, when you would see a notification that data is leaving your network, it is going to North Korea in that case most of the time. And so checking on that's important. And then user behavior, I think, is really important. Yeah. There's a lot of tools that allow you to detect anomaly behavior from users, things like too fast to travel, or things like messing in code bases where they really shouldn't be, stuff like that. So there's quite a bit of technical means, but that's after the hiring piece.
Yeah. Okay, completely agree. I think some of the big incidents that we've seen the readout reports, how they wound up actually catching them, was that post-hire behavior piece. It turns out it's pretty hard and tricky. We've seen even security companies hire these people. So people that are very finely tuned in security are falling for this. So it seems like it's super hard in the hiring pipeline.
Hiring managers, you got to fly your candidates out.
Turns out meat space wins once again.
Finally, for once.
Cool. All right. I have to ask you before I let you go on this one. I heard you guys took down a botnet related to the Luma Stealer, and the details of this were way too cool to not ask you about it before I let you go.
I think it's so cool too. One of the things that Microsoft does is we have this crack team called the Digital Crimes Unit. They're amazing. And it's made up of Intel analysts and lawyers. And the Intel analysts say, we're seeing this botnet. In Luma Stealer's case, it was an info stealer that would get on machines and take, personal information, passwords, et cetera. And they go to the lawyers and they say, hey, is there anything we could do from the legal perspective to disrupt this threat actor? We've put in detection signatures. We've deployed, everything technical that we can through our systems. But could we stop them with another means? And in this case, it was the RICO Act.
It's wild. It's
which
the wildest
is racketeering, a federal crime. And because of the creativity of that lawyer team, which I'm not a lawyer, you're not a lawyer, it's very fascinating. They were able to find ways to file briefs and file a RICO Act strategy to allow us to seize those domains, sinkhole those domains, and basically render that botnet inoperable through the law.
I mean, just the coolest thing I've ever heard, right?
It's very cool
this is
and
things,
weird.
Yeah, things that were taking down the mob.
Yes,
right? And now
exactly.
We're taking down the Luma Stealer.
Yes, because in many ways it is a criminal conspiracy, right?
Super
affiliates and stealing data and all these things. Even though we think of RICO in those terms, from the 60s and 70s, from looking at organized crime, this is organized crime on the internet, and it counts too.
Yeah, super fascinating. Also, I don't know if people realize, but a lot of times when protecting or kind of going on the offense against a botnet, you can't hack them either.
Right. No.
Right. And so I remember, going back to the Mirai botnet way back in the day, they were able to sinkhole the botnet, but then they couldn't give it the kill command because that would be in violation of the Computer Abuse Act as well, right? Because they just couldn't shut it off. So they just were like, we're going to sinkhole it, right? And so this is another creative tool to use against botnets, it seems.
And I think that's something that's really interesting about the internet is there are all of these kind of homeless command and control machines that are sort of like pinging out to potentially sinkhole domains or domains that have been seized, and they haven't necessarily been turned off. They just can't connect anymore.
That's wild. That's wild. Do you see any other like implications of this new? Like, this sounds like a new, relatively new technique. I've never heard of this before. Botnets and Luma Stealer isn't the only organized cybercrime unit out there. Do you see kind of implications on this going forward?
100%. That's a great question. I think, and I talk with that team in that organization at Microsoft pretty frequently. And that's really all they do is they look for opportunities where they can leverage legal means to protect the health of the global internet by getting botnets taken down, seizing domains that are associated with them, or, anything else that could help kind of make us safer on the internet.
So what I'm hearing is lawyers are our friend.
I mean, they're wild.
When
if you've ever met a lawyer,
when used properly,
pretty crazy.
When used properly, lawyers are our friend. Got it. And then I also want to ask, Digital Crimes Unit at Microsoft sounds like the next CBS hit.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The problem is they're also nice and like really polite and really nice people.
Okay.
I don't think it would make for the greatest television.
Okay. Well, who would play you on TV if that came on CBS?
Dita Von Teese.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then I can't wait. It's on my calendar. You're going on the big stage here this week. What are you talking about when you get up there? Keynoting Black Hat. Congrats. That's huge. That's awesome. What are you talking about?
I'm super excited. We'll be on the main stage talking with one of my counterparts in Mystic and two of my counterparts.
What's Mystic? Sorry.
Mystic is the Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center, and talking to some of our incident response analysts who actually go on the ground when an organization is breached. And we're going to talk about how those analysts are in the thick of it as it's happening, and we're back at the office helping them understand who the threat actor is, what the threat actor is doing. And so it'll be a really interesting conversation about being on the ground in the thick of it and how we take that information back and do attribution. That's
super cool. I don't think, just to explain to some people, I've kind of learned this and realized this as I've, worked with Microsoft more in the past couple of years. I've met a bunch of the security team at Microsoft in the past, and it's not just about securing Microsoft. You guys also tend to have a few customers that you might get some data from as well. So is that where Mystic and Incident Response is actually going and helping when you guys see something going on at your customer? Maybe they don't have the same incident response or detection capabilities that you guys have, but you're catching the signal because they're using, the M365 or whatever they're using. You guys are seeing that. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah. So either they call us because they've detected a breach themselves, or we are able to say, hey, we see breach activity happening. How do you want to handle this? And many times customers say, we want Microsoft Incident Response to come on the scene and help us out there. There is a lot to be learned from a breach, because that means that threat actor was successfully able to infiltrate that organization without it being seen by traditional security methods, maybe Microsoft, maybe another. But getting that signal allows us to then come back, deploy it fleet-wide across things like Defender, and protect everyone based on the information that we get from a single breach.
Super cool. Okay, cool. Anything else in the keynote that you want to share?
Please clap. Please.
I will take pictures. What were your requirements on pictures again? You must.
I would like to look thin and young.
Okay, got it. I got the angles in my head. I'm ready. Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much for coming here. Thanks, Microsoft. This is awesome. Yeah. The other place that I just ran into you guys was SleuthCon, and awesome. I'm really looking forward to CyberWarCon as well. I'm sure you guys are coming out and you're super involved. So I'll
see you at CyberWarCon.
That'll be the next video where we see each other. Yep. Okay,
Absolutely.
cool. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt.